this is a little bit of a different subject to what we've done. It's a bit left field, Aleksandra, because we're usually like really hardcore wellness, you know, nutritionists and TCM doctors and all this kind of thing. But I have to tell you, I'm aware of Aleksandra's work. And I actually approached Aleksandra to do this for us because I was looking at some of the stuff she was doing, and I follow her on Instagram. And I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, wow, this actually does have an impact on your well-being, in terms of defining who you are, in terms of, you know, like your own self-esteem and your own confidence. So thank you very much for joining us. Maybe tell us a little bit about your background. You know, we've got your bio on our website, but you've had quite a glamorous background, haven't you? Like living in Paris and, you know, involved in all the fashion houses, and I can imagine you with your dark glasses.
Maybe on a day like today.
Shows, you know, like what's that movie called?
The Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah, Devil Wears Prada. But you're not the devil, by the way. We know.
No, but I have met a few.
Have you met a few? Seriously, there are characters like that. That
yes, very much.
Stereotypical. They exist.
Yeah. There are some wonderful people in my industry, like in most industries, and there are some horrendous people as well, probably like in all industries. So thank you so much for having me, Stella. And yeah, I mean, I totally believe that style is not superficial, that it's part of our self-care and part of the way that we perceive ourselves. So my methodology is really all about the inside out style identity, because it's not just about your external appearance. So as you said, I've worked in the fashion industry since 1996. So for quite a long time at a very high level as a creative director for brands like Vanessa Bruno, and, you know, doing shoots and campaigns for brands like Celine and Chanel, and, you know, do research and consultancy. So really inspiring others. You know, I believe that's why I was put here on the world, to bring more beauty to the world and to inspire others, which I personally think is far from superficial. So yeah, I've loved my job working for Vogue and Harper's, and I was the fashion director of a magazine in London called Exit magazine, which was really about art and fashion. And that's what I love. It's this line between what we call fashion, although I'm actually interested in style and not so much fashion. And maybe I can explain that in a minute. And, you know, the greater cultural world, because, you know, art, fashion is a cultural reflection, and it echoes what's going on in the world. And that's what makes it really intriguing, and also means that we can use it as a tool to help express our own selves and where we stand in the world. So as I've gone on in my career, you know, COVID hit, and like most of us, you know, we were at home. I was actually in the tropics. So I'm between Paris and London mostly. And I love Paris. And I was, you know, drawn there because I like more elegant style. And, you know, the luxury market is really important to me, because although there's a lot of sort of fake luxury out there that I don't like, I also think that it's that we all need to have a lot less stuff, you know, especially when you hit 40 or 50 or 60. It's like you've got I meet clients that got mountains of stuff, exploding wardrobes, and then they say, I've got nothing to wear. I don't feel right in my clothes. I don't know how to represent myself. Something's changed inside me. And there's this sort of loss of confidence, and the wardrobe just becomes really intimidating. Whereas I believe that style is an expression of your soul, and that means that it should support you, it should uplift you. And there's a lot of emotional baggage in clothing too that I'll talk about in a minute. So yeah, lockdown hit, and also, you know, I'm now in my mid-40s, and you sort of start to think, don't you, myself as much as everybody else, and you think, well, actually, what do I want to do now at this point in my life that's going to have an impact, and, you know, that's going to make me feel happy? And so I sort of dabbled in social media that I've never done before, because I'm quite old fashioned and was always very behind the scenes. And now I've launched my YouTube channel, and I started working. Well, I was being approached by people to say, oh, can't you help private clients as much as celebrities and big brands, you know, and work with like styling their lives and creative directing real people. I mean, I hate that expression, real people, because we're all real people, and celebrities and supermodels, God, they're real too. And by the way, full of the same insecurities that riddle all of us. So I thought, oh yes, how can I reach, you know, these people? So I sort of braved it and launched this YouTube channel, which was quite, you know, putting yourself out there. I'm sure you know what I mean. It's quite a new thing. And yeah, now I start working more and more with private clients, and it's just so wonderful to be able to help real people to tell their own stories through style. And especially midlife women, you know, like myself, I tend to attract a lot of like-minded individuals, you know, people with style and substance, I could say, because it's, as I say, it's not just about, you know, buying a pretty dress and feeling better. That would be dreadfully superficial. So yeah, for me, style is part of well-being. And yeah, I'm really happy to have made this move.
Yeah, it's really, well, it's a bold move, so congratulations.
Thank you.
But it's a very interesting perspective, you know. And so when I was thinking about the event, and I was thinking, well, style is, yeah, what is style? And as you say, it's it can be perceived as a form of art, it can be, you know, cultural, it can be all those things. And I'll tell you another little personal story. I always tell personal stories on here.
I love that.
My style has really changed as I've changed my circumstances. So I used to be like really into like classic design and stuff like that when I was younger, and I was in the corporate workplace. You know, you kind of fit your image, don't you? You fit what your role is in life, and you dress around that, and then you find that becomes your identity. And then as I, you know, started Wellbeing Escapes, it still stayed that way. And then as I got more and more into the wellness world and also the more spiritual world, I became a bit more boho. My mum thinks I've gone crazy. My mum's like, you look really, you don't look smart anymore, she tells me. So we have this laugh about it. She's like, you know, you're wearing those like boho trousers. What are they? Anyway, so we have, you know, I find it very amusing, but it's just how your own style can evolve and how you feel comfortable knowing that. But before we go on to that, lockdown was very interesting. And I don't know, like everyone here, you probably read my little story about my grandmother, and how she just really took care in how she looked, and it helped her. And I was telling Aleksandra, on the flip side, my other grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was got to a certain age and really just stopped caring how she looked. Just really, it just wasn't important to her, and she aged so much overnight. She did have health problems too, and I just found like there was such a decline in her so quickly. I've also seen it with men, whereas, you know, some men as they get older, you know, especially the old school men, will get up and they you know, like my grandfathers would get up and even when they were old and put their ties on and shave every day and do all those things to make themselves feel and look smart and look better, and then that would affect their mindset and all of that. But with lockdown, we all kind of stopped caring a little bit, didn't we? Right? Because I saw it with myself. It's so easy just to live in leggings and a t-shirt. So we all kind of stopped bothering, and then it was when we emerged back into the real world that we had to start thinking about that. But then that made me analyze that a little bit and think, well, who are we actually doing that for? Are we doing that for ourselves? Are we doing that as our own identity, or how we're perceived by other people? Tell us your thoughts on.
Well, that's I mean, gosh, you raised so many interesting thoughts there, Stella. And I was sharing with you earlier as well that my grandmother, likewise, she just died actually at 99, and she likewise, she was actually blind, but she still had her beautiful baby soft white fluffy hair coiffed, and she had these lovely nails, and as a child they were always pearly white, and she still had them painted, because even though she couldn't see herself, it's how she perceived herself. And I think that's quite important. How do we perceive ourselves? And that changes. So the first thing that you said was, you know, about your personal evolution from sort of corporate to your role at Wellbeing Escapes and, you know, more boho. And I think this brings me to the really huge subject that I could talk about for hours in itself, which is the subject of labels. And that is to say, sort of to bring that to your final point, in fashion, we have the sociological paradox. So fashion is about fitting in and it's about standing out at the same time. And that tension is really exciting. It's really interesting. We want to represent ourselves as individuals. It's about self-expression and it's also about fitting in. The problem is that when you do too much fitting in and not enough self-expression, when the balance is not there, then you are succumbing to somebody else's idea of how you should look, and the shoulds come in. And I think especially at midlife, we want to start questioning those shoulds and to sort of start to assert ourselves, especially because midlife, we go through so many transitions, be it divorce, the breakup of relationship, the menopause. It's a huge subject for many of my ladies, and as you say, it's not just women, it's men too, going through changes, maybe retirement is coming, and that kind of change, or even job promotion. All of these things, these transitions really affect us and our own self-perception. So I think it's about finding that balance between, what sort of world you're in and how you want to feel. That's the main thing here. So some people say to me, for instance, I can't be bothered with fashion. In lockdown, I wore leggings, And actually, it's not true. I mean, maybe it means they're not interested in fashion as an industry or as the trends. And I urge everybody to think of it differently. I urge everybody to think of fashion and the trends as a tool that you can use for self-expression, as I always say, to stay elegant and relevant. It doesn't mean we have to be slave to those ridiculous trends, a lot of which are commercial to get us to buy more things. God, we don't need more stuff, or we don't need much more stuff. It's really about tweaking what we have and adding to it thoughtfully. It's about conscious consumption. So style, on the other hand, is something that's much more fundamental because it speaks about our values, our beliefs. What kind of consumers are we? What kind of people do we want to be in the world? And then you were saying about, you were thinking, who am I dressing for? The people that say, I'm just wearing leggings, or, I went on a spa retreat actually through Wellbeing Escapes. And I remember we were all given these pajamas to wear. And on the one hand, I was like, that's so liberating. We're all wearing these same pajamas and nobody cares. But also what you started to see was the school uniform phenomenon, where people are like styling, and styling is the way in which clothes are worn, right? So designers design the clothes, and culture and the designers reflect what's going on culturally, and that's the trends. And then style and stylists, my job is, the way in which your clothes are worn. So, that could be preppy. It could be, am I buttoning it up tight? Am I wearing something loose? Am I pushing my sleeves up? And all of that is about a feeling, right? So if I push just as a simple example, if I shove my sleeves up, suddenly it's a lot more relaxed. It's a lot more kind of casual than if I had the sleeves of this kind of tuxedo jacket down, which makes it a lot more formal. So styling is really about the way in which you put your clothes together and the way in which you wear them. That is really exciting. And that happens even if we're all in pajamas, or if we're in, or if we're in school uniforms, right? I went to a convent school, and I'm sure some of you will resonate with that. You can still find ways of styling your uniform to express yourself. So I really think it's about finding that personal balance and shedding ourselves of self-imposed labels, one of which could be, I'm not fashionable, or I can't be bothered with style. Another one could be, I need to look professional, I'm a corporate woman, and all of those things are true, can be true, but we want to reflect all of our wonderful dimensions. And I think society, often to women especially, tends to try and put us in a box, perhaps, where we become one-sided, especially with time. So it could be that our own self-perception is, I have clients that are fabulous career ladies, who have spent their lives, really honing their career. And I really admire that. But then sometimes they lose other sides to themselves, the fun side, the flirty side, the sexy side, for example. So with my work, it's not just about what we put on ourselves, it's about the attitude with which we hold ourselves, within our clothes. And that means sometimes saying to clients, let's find new ways of having fun, let's look at your lifestyle and see what we can do to help you be balanced better and to express yourself in your multi-dimensional self, as I call it, where it's not just I am defining myself or other people are defining me as a career woman. If you are going to work in a suit, for example, how can we still make that express yourself, especially if you're, higher up in the corporate world, where there is a little bit more leeway there for women. It's no longer that sort of middle management suit and fitting in look, or on the other hand, if you've been going through the ringer in your relationship, sometimes that can leave people feeling a bit like, oh, I just want to wear comfortable clothes, and I don't know who I am anymore. I get this a lot. I feel lost. So, okay, great. Let's start. That's a great place to start. You don't know where you are. Brilliant. Let's redefine it. Let's look at all the sides of yourself. Maybe in your relationship, you've become one-sided because you've just given everything to your relationship. So how can we get you back to yourself and then express that on the outside through your clothes and the way that you wear them?
So how do you go about doing that? It's really interesting. So, for example, someone has I've seen this. I've either become their identity, i.e., their career. They dress.
I've done that too.
They dress how they feel they're supposed to dress and look in the workplace, and then that carries through. And they're all, like you say, with relationship breakdowns and all of that, all relationship issues. So how would you go about the first steps in defining who you are and how to work out your own style?
Yeah, well, I think part of it is to be quite truthful to yourself and say, how do I perceive myself and how do I want other people to see me? Because I think style is about setting boundaries for yourself and for other people, right? We all know these things like, oh, people make an opinion of you before they even talk to you, first impressions, blah, blah. And it's true. And that's about the way you look, but it's also about the energy that you put out in your clothes, right? So it's really important to be wearing things that make you feel the way that you want to feel, because that way energetically you will radiate out more or less how you want to feel. I'm sure we've all done it, where sometimes in the morning, you've got an outfit out the night before and you've put it on, but then you're not quite feeling it, then you sort of all day, it just doesn't vibe with you somehow. And you can't really put a finger on it. You just don't feel right, but just because it didn't match your energy that day. So that's quite exciting, I think, quite interesting. So what I would say for people to do is, and by the way, I do not poo-poo comfort. Oh my gosh, I love comfort, except I think we can still be comfortable and chic. It's fine if we want to wear leggings, leggings have their place, totally. But, there's a choice of about 1 billion leggings out there as well. So let's find the right ones for you as well. But I don't poo-poo comfort in any way, even whether we're at work, whether we're at play, whether we're going for a dinner date, a gala event, whatever it might be, because I think if you're comfortable, you're confident. And if you're confident, other people are going to perceive you. You're in your power, right? So I don't poo-poo comfort. I love flat shoes, I love comfortable shoes, all of that. But to get back to your question, what I think people should do is to really think about how they want to be perceived and how you want to perceive yourself, and really to come up with 3 key words that define that. So it's really interesting to me, Stella, that you were saying, for example, that you can feel that your style is a bit more boho now. Actually, what I would encourage even you to do in this case is to say, okay, do I like that boho label that other people are giving to me? Is that something that resonates with me? Is that how I want to be perceived? But I would also encourage you to think of other words, because what we don't want is just to be one-dimensional again, right? Which I think is part of the problem of some style systems, where they're like, oh, you're an apple, oh, you're a pear, oh, you're a boho, whatever. It's not embracing the different facets. So I like to think of 3 key words. So first of all, just do a brain dump, like write down any word that you would like to be perceived as, or that resonates with you in some way. So for me, it might be words like elegant, chic, sophisticated, but also like fun, silly, because I think I love reading. I read literature at university, and I love reading, heavy books on AI and things like this. But on the other hand, I love Hello Kitty. There's my confession, her smiley big kitty face. God, I love her. It's ridiculous. And I know that I'm a 44-year-old woman, and I can admit here, that I love Hello Kitty. But you know what I mean? Whereas if we just stick to the, oh, she's elegant and classical thing, it's not really embracing all of myself. So first of all, just do a brain dump. List all of the words that you think resonate with you, and the way in which you would like to be perceived. And then really choose your top three. It's a bit like dating, right? For those of you that are dating again, oh, me too, it's dreadful. Anybody with dating advice, bring it on. But, with dating, it's like, you might have these ideas of how you want your partner to look, but at the end of the day, what are the three things that are really important to you? Is it that he's good in bed? Maybe, but maybe there's something more important to that for you. I don't judge either way, like for me, maybe it's somebody kind, for example. So everybody has different values that they look for. And it's the same with yourself. So you have to be honest with yourself and think, how do I want to be perceived? So choose your three top words, those kind of non-negotiables. And they can be contradictory. So you might be, an edgy, romantic boho. That's not a problem, right? And then what we want to do is to choose outfits. And, this is sort of looking at it from a semiotic perspective. So the study of signs and symbols to say, actually, this kind of clothes, so you referenced a specific type of trouser, Stella, and I'm guessing what your kind of trouser is, maybe sort of a drop crotch trouser, like the yoga pants style that you're talking about.
No, I'm not that boho.
Oh, you're not?
Not drop. No. It was just I had some trousers with the prints,
oh, right.
and the patterns,
About how boho can you go?
yeah. How boho can you go? No, I'm not that boho. And it's sorry, carry on.
No, but it's that, isn't it? It's about looking at things and saying, what does this signify? So what does it mean? So it's a really good exercise to get into as well, because do you know what? We all people watch and we all have opinions, and I know there's a lot of talk about sort of judgment and don't be judgmental and stuff, but we all cast opinions on people. Even Buddhist monks, a Buddhist monk I remember once, actually it was at Chivasom, and they were so smiley, and they looked at me and they said, everybody's got their shit, just smile. I was like, wow.
That's quite funny. That is quite funny. Yeah.
So yeah, we need to think about like what signs and symbols are different clothes giving off. So we all do people watching, and also I think for me style is really fundamental to our humanness. It's an expression of our humanity. There are not many other creatures that do this, that have the capability to express ourselves through the way that we appear. And if, as we were saying, like fashion for me is part of culture. And if we look at, even the cave paintings, humans have had this need for self-expression since the beginning of time. It's part of our humanity. It's a form of communication with others. Isn't that beautiful? And also, within nature, there's a bird called the bowerbird. Gosh, I'm such a David Attenborough fan. And the bowerbird sort of spreads out his wares. He collects things and spreads them out to find a partner. So it could be like butterfly wings or whatever, something beautiful that he finds. So it's also, style is about beauty. Fashion is about showing, there's a fashionable body type, for example, although now at the moment, the fashionable body type the fashion is kind of diversity at the moment, but generally in the areas there are fashionable body types. What I would say is that doesn't matter. What matters is your style. So look out and try and think about, what do things represent? So those trousers to you represent, or to your mum represent boho, maybe my jacket, makes me think of like Bianca Jagger and her wedding when she was wearing a tuxedo. So I'm thinking like a bit 70s kind of cool. But then it's like, okay, so that's one aspect. So this is something that's like a bit elegant. So then I don't just want to be elegant. So what can I mix that with my three key words, right? So let's say for me, it might be elegant, chic and a bit eccentric. So where's my eccentric touch in this outfit, right? So maybe it's that I put a funny necklace with it. That's going to be a bit of a talking point. That's a bit off field, like I've got this big heart necklace. Actually, I'm just visiting my grandmother, so I didn't bring it with me. But like a big wonky heart necklace, or some oversized juicy pearls, something a bit more modern. I've got like a giant pearl that's got studs in it. It's a bit wonky, it's a bit modern, and that just breaks the classicness of something like this. So it's really about thinking, what do clothes signify? What do they mean? When I look at them, what do I think it says? So for example, a suit, you might just look at it and think, okay, this says smart. There's a great starting point. You look at some other things, they might say casual, a floral dress might say romantic. Okay, great. So how can you mix those things together in your outfit to bring you to those 3 key words that are going to define your style identity?
This is very, very interesting. This is like conscious dressing, right?
Yeah. It's intentional.
Where intentional dressing. So every time you go out or whatever, I mean, some people will want to do it at home. I wouldn't do it at home, but maybe some people, it's like you take your 3 words and you, or your 3 strains, and you intentionally think about how you're going to put that together with your outfit. And that could be anything from going to visit friends, or going to an event, or even going to, you know, it doesn't matter. It could be a casual event. It could be, you know, it's interesting as you were talking, because I made the joke about the boho trousers, but I noticed this week I had a business meeting, and comfort is very important to me. I think comfort is important to everyone over the age of 40. I don't care, you know, like if you see someone who is like wearing really tight clothes and high heels, I just think, darling, you know, do yourself a favor, just let it go. It's really not worth it. But anyway, I think comfort's really important, but I dressed in quite an elegant dress that I've had for about 10 years. I always come, and it's very cooling, it's silk, and it's just it's very simple. And I made I didn't do it consciously, but then when I left, because I was dressing for that meeting, subconsciously I wanted to look a certain way for that meeting. Whereas I'll go to meet some of my more hippie friends, and then the boho stuff will come out, you know. It's really interesting. Like, does anyone else do that? Does anyone else like dress to the people that they're like thinking about changing their dress, maybe subconsciously?
I think we all.
Or is that just me?
I think we all do.
We all do. No one's admitting to it.
And it's just about finding that balance, isn't it? Like, because business meeting, I don't want to wear the same as yoga, but also then you know, you were right. It's about intentionality. And actually, it sounds quite labored when we say it like that. But what happens is it becomes second nature, because even when you go to buy your leggings, say, you're buying them with this in mind. You know, you're buying things intentionally. You know,
so then you keep them for longer. You're not buying stuff just to have stuff. We're just by the way, in the future, Aleksandra's going to come back and talk to us about decluttering our wardrobes, which I really need help on too, because again, you see, Sue says the same thing. I dress depends on where I'm going and who I'm seeing all the time. Sue, do you do that intentionally, like, or subconsciously?
Intentionally.
Okay, so she's an intentional woman. Okay,
I mean, that's nice too, as long as we can express ourselves, so it's back to that thing of, we want to dress, it's fine to, you know, to dress how you want to be perceived for other people, setting that boundary for other people, but also as long as we're still being true to ourselves. You know, otherwise it's it's like a mask, isn't it? You know, it's like this mask of what we think others should see. So I think we all do that.
And I think as we get older, we kind of know who we are a little bit more, in that I see young girls out together and they're just carbon copies of each other. You know, they all look the same, they've all got the same hairstyles, and I don't want to judge, because I was one of them, you know, in the past.
We've all been there.
Oh, Sue, absolutely. Comes from the corporate bit, being seen as smart and efficient. Absolutely.
And I have lots of corporate clients who have sort of stepped up the ladder, and then they say to me like, I still want to be, you know, you want to look polished, I want to look like a leader, but I want to look like myself at this point, is what I hear, you know, a lot. And it's really that thing. It's about getting back to yourself, whether you're going through menopause, whether you're gone through a breakup. It's about using style as a tool to get back to yourself. And the other thing that I would say with this idea of intentionality is, I really believe in like mantras and messages. And you know, in another talk, we'll talk all about sort of the emotional weight of our stuff. But just to touch on that now, I also urge you, when you go out shopping, and there's a lot, especially midlife, there's a lot of like, oh, can I wear this at this age? Oh, I shouldn't wear this. Like, you know, I get emails from lovely ladies saying, oh, can I still wear a leather skirt at my age? Oh, can I have long hair? Can I wear heels? Yeah, you can do what you want, you know, bring it on. but as long as you feel good in it, as long as it represents you as you are at this point in your life. But when you do go shopping, and the reason that thought came into my head is because I was twiddling my jewelry, and, you know, a lot of women say to me, I've never bought a piece of jewelry for myself, you know, oh, that's something, you know, that my partner did. Fulfilling roles rather than, yeah, exactly. Sheena, interesting. I'm gonna ask you that in a second, Sheena. So what I would say is, if you do go out and buy something new, especially something that you know you're going to have for a long time, like a piece of jewelry, and there's nothing like, if any of you are going through a breakup, there's nothing like going out and buying yourself a piece of jewelry, right, after you've had a bad breakup or divorce. And then give it a message, you know, give it a mantra. So for example, this little ring that I've got here, this was from the female members of my family who like to buy me jewelry, and it was a promise to quit one of my clients. You know, you get to a certain age, I think, and you want to have clients that really resonate with you and your values. And that's something else, by the way, when you're shopping. I want you to think about your values and to think about, you know, yeah, your values come into it as well, because that's going to depend on where you're going to shop and how you're going to shop, and then sustainability and all of that. But anyway, so yeah, I wanted to leave a toxic client, and so this ring was to say, my messaging of this ring, actually, I don't remember exactly what the messaging is now, but it was something like, yeah, you can do this, you've got this, you can do this. And I twiddle my rings a lot, you know, and every time I twiddled it, I would think about this message: you've got this, it's okay, you can do this, it's going to be okay. And it's just lovely to have those messages imbued into your stuff, because it really empowers you. It's like style then becomes a physical manifestation of your next level you, and I find that exciting. I can see we've got some comments.
Yeah, there's some really good comments and questions, because Sheena, you know, Sue says about coming from the corporate bit. I lived that world, so I know exactly what she means. Whereas you're dressing, and I have lots of friends who do that. Yeah. Like dress to be seen a certain way. Yeah. And then Sheena, who I know has just left the workplace, and I think feels very liberated, don't you, Sheena? You look very liberated. But then Sheena says fulfilling roles rather than dressing as authentic me, which is interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting subject, I think, in that you do. That's one of the comments I made at the beginning about that. You know, it's like, how do you know this? Oh, there's some great comments here. Thank you, ladies. Esther then says, how would one know when aspirational looks, like wanting to radiate leadership, becomes a mask?
That's a great question.
We've got a deep crew here. We
love this. It's very juicy.
Have a deep community.
That's such a juicy comment, Esther. Thank you for all your and it sort of links to Sheena's comment, doesn't it, about fulfilling roles rather than dressing as the authentic you. I love your smiley. Yeah, and I think you can still, for me, these things are not necessarily contradictory either. You do want to radiate leadership, don't you? So, but what you need to think about is how, yeah, we've got corporate codes, and often there are codes in a workplace of what you can and cannot wear. But sometimes people go to, instead of just following the rules of a workplace, it's the expectation that we kind of put on ourselves of how a leader should look, instead of addressing, how do I want to look as a leader? You know, how does my authentic self want to look as a leader? And yes, you still might have to have some uniform codes, a blazer, for example, but what can you do to make sure that you are still getting your true self out there in your outfit? Because that's going to help people to perceive you in a certain way. And what I'm seeing more and more, and this is really interesting, is I've seen a shift, especially amongst, C-suite up, board members, etc., is this idea of soft power, that it's no longer about conforming to the masculine notion of, the tight dresses or the heels or the like the power suit. Yeah, I love suits, by the way. Oh my God, I feel great in a suit, as long as it's comfortable. And I have them tailored, of course, so that, they can be taken up to my little 5 centimeter heels, because I'm not like a big high heel girl in the daytime, not practical. So yeah, it's not about conforming to those masculine codes anymore. I've seen a shift. A really beautifully tailored pink coat, for example, over, a classic suit. great. And I'm seeing more and more of this, like women expressing more femininity, which I think traditionally in the workplace has been seen as something, weak or soft or negative. Nowadays it's about injecting a bit of that and saying, you know what, I can still be soft and strong at the same time. And I think as women, it's quite interesting to be gently asserting new kinds of power. Yeah. Exactly. Yes,
flip what is my idea of leadership, and then consider. I love that. Flip it around. I totally agree. That's a great take on it. There's some other comments in here. Sarah also did the same thing, but she had a breakup and bought an expensive. She bought herself some jewelry. So that's great.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Sarah. Beautiful.
That you would be there for yourself. How wonderful. That's beautiful. I love that.
That's really lovely, and it's a great example of our stuff supporting us, and that means the stuff in your house too, right? It should all uplift you and make you feel.
Okay, let's go back to the 3 words, because Claire's intrigued by the idea of the 3 words, like identifying yourself through 3 words, but she's not sure where to start. So let's go back to that maybe for a few minutes.
Yeah, sure. So Claire, just sometimes we can be consciously and do this, but I remember when I read literature at university, and then I worked in magazines for a few years, for different magazines, including Dazed and Confused and Vogue and stuff. And then I went back and did a master's in fashion design at Central St Martin's, and I'd never drawn before. And I remember having this piece of paper in front of me, and my quite famous but quite how can I say this politely, distinctive course leader would swear at you. So what the F is wrong with you? It's just an effing piece of paper, just draw. But sometimes sometimes that piece of paper is hard, isn't it, to start? So sometimes in order to start, we need to distract ourselves and go for a walk, or do something really fun, go jogging maybe. Oh, that's not fun for some people, actually. That's not so much fun for me. I don't know why I said jogging, but I know that jogging helps some people get out of their head, and let the thoughts come. So sometimes the more we stress about not knowing where to start, the harder it is to start, in a way, because we need to sort of let it flow a bit. It's like any of you that draw or paint, when you're just faced with a blank canvas, it's intimidating. But when we just remove expectations of ourselves, things start to flow. Play some music, dance in your bedroom, all of these good things. So that's one thing, get into your flow somehow by doing what you love. The second thing to start, I would say, is look around and look at the things in your wardrobe at the moment and in your home. And what do you think that they're currently saying about you? And you can also ask your friends as well. You're really good friends, say, how would you describe my style? And even, how would you describe me? If you have to describe me in just one sentence, what would it be? And it can be really enlightening as well. And then you can think about, is that how I want to be seen? Is that an important description to me? And that could be, again, it's not necessarily just about descriptive words. It could also be value-based words. Somebody might say, you're kind, gracious, and elegant. Okay, that's beautiful. That resonates also with my style, right? So ask close ones, your loved ones, for a description of you. And then look at your stuff around you, and does it make you happy? Is it functional, or is it functional and beautiful? Even what flowers do you choose, right? So I do this when I'm working with luxury brands. One of the things that we have to do quite often when you have a change of creative director is we need to sort of redefine what the brand woman is all about. And so we do this like quite fun exercise, and we say, okay, where does she live, and what is she wearing? And if she's not wearing our brand, what other brands is she wearing? And what flowers does she have in her house? So for example, when it was Phoebe Philo at Celine, we were saying, what flowers would she have? She's quite a minimalist woman. She's quite a powerful woman. Maybe she's a director. And she would have orchids, they're quite minimal, but still quite sexy, they're very clean. So the woman that has, that is the number one flower is the orchid, is very different to the woman whose number one flower is the peony, who's probably, much more romantic, maybe not. I love Hello Kitty, but it all comes into it. So don't just take your flower, but, you really look around you and think, They smell so divine. Sweet peas, they're amazing, right? And I quite like these sort of garden flowers and meadow flowers, but is it my number one flower? I'm not sure. Actually, I also love a big voluptuous gladioli. So it's really about looking around you and thinking, why do I have around me what I have? Is it that it's inherited? And a lot of women I see actually gone through divorce or something, maybe downsized with retirement, for example, or divorce, and suddenly their house becomes a dumping ground for everybody else's stuff apart from themselves. And so again, it's about getting back to yourself and saying, what do I have in my house right now that I love and I really love, and that it really expresses me, that's not just functional, that's not just inherited, and I think that can be a good starting place to finding some of those key words.
This is wow, hugely, we're stepping into hugely emotional ground here, because a lot of this, I mean, we'll talk about it in the next session we do about stuff, but it's, there's so much emotion attached to stuff that people keep, and the stories around that. Talk to us about some of your clients right now, like in midlife, moving beyond, some of the challenges they've been through, what they're looking at with their own style. I mean, one of the things you said to me, and you wrote in the intro, is one of the things you hear the most is, oh, I don't want to be much and dressed as lamb. That's one of my biggest fears as well, being much and dressed as lamb, but I quite like the fun stuff. Some of the younger fashion. I remember a few years ago, I had a pair of like silver sneakers, like silver trainers, and I put them on. And at the time, like my 19-year-old son looked at me and said, "You're not going out like that, are you?" I said, "What do you mean? I love them." And he said, "They're a bit young for you, aren't they? Your offsprings can be really brutal at times."
Yeah, children can be harsh.
So luckily I've got a bit of a strong character, so I said, well, I don't really care what you think, I'm going out with my silver sneakers. but there is always that little nagging thought in the back of your head, is like, oh, how far can I push this before I'm looking like mutton dressed as lamb? Give us your wisdom on that, please.
I hate this expression, and accept that everybody, like I'd say 99% of my clients say this to me, I just didn't want to look like, I don't want to look like dress, I'm scared of this, I'm worried about this, I don't want to look like mutton dressed like lamb. So I do think it's a really important expression, just because I hear it so much. I love your story about the silver sneakers, and I'm glad that you embraced them. And I think you raise an important point, and that's also like, Esther, was it Esther was saying about what coming from the corporate world, or was that Sue?
Sue.
And
but I think Esther's in the corporate world and loves pink blazers.
Please
courage to wear it.
Love it. Put it with some black, put it with some black or grey or something to tone it down. Definitely wear your pink blazer, love that. Or full on pink suit, great. So, and also, sometimes when women are stepping into leadership positions, I had a client recently, for instance, that had gone from quite a big public service role to being a much more front-facing role, and suddenly she was going into a tech, fintech company, where it's a male-dominated environment, so really different to her previous job in the public sector. And I remember the reason she reached out to me at first was because she said, I've got a dinner, it's like a 20 people dinner in a private mansion in London, overlooking Hyde Park. I'm going to be the only woman there. And it's the first time that all my colleagues are going to see me. So I want to wear something that, makes a statement, but I also feel comfortable in. And now she's doing lots of like front facing, like interviews, BBC, all of this. And she sort of said to me, oh, should I wear a white shirt? And I was like, there's nothing wrong with a white shirt at all. Love it. But it's very neutral, isn't it? It's very like, yeah, in the previous job, no problem. You want to blend in more. But in this job, you can get away with a lot more, and also like a white shirt, it's not really expressing anything about you, and it's quite bland and unmemorable. So that was really interesting.
I find it really interesting that you've got these high achieving clients who are racked with insecurity about what to wear.
Darling, aren't we all? Everybody, you know, I've worked with some of the world's top celebrities and supermodels, and everybody has their something. You know, you'll get skinny supermodels with what I think like, oh my God, I love your legs. And they'll be like, oh, they're so skinny. Oh, but my boyfriend wishes I had tits and ass. Like, honestly, everybody has something, you know, but the flip side to that is that everybody can also find something that they love. And I always urge people, you know, let's focus less on the things we don't love, and we can disguise them and hide them with clothes anyway. We can find tricks, styling tricks to help. But let's find the thing that you love about yourself and let's focus on that more. And there's always something, even if it's your earlobes or something, you know, ears, you know, I love my earlobes. Great. So I was just saying though, the reason I sort of went into this corporate chat is based on your story, is to say it's also sometimes about the perception we have of a certain label. So in this case, and it's the perception of your son with the label mother. He has an idea of what he thinks a mother should look like. I have an idea, and I'm guilty of this too, it's just human nature, of what a grandmother should look like, right? And actually now, have you seen, like, when we look at celebrities that are in their 40s, that are in their 50s, a lot of the time they don't look like what a lot of people have in their heads as a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old. You know, there's this shop on Boulevard Haussmann just by where I live in Paris, and it's like shoes for 50-year-olds. Oh my God, to me it's like shoes for 100-year-olds. You know, it's like Velcro slippers, and it's like, yeah, 50-year-olds don't really need to go into that frumpy territory now. You know, we don't, you know, that's not mutton or lamb. It's just not, you know, it's just like. So I think the perception of what a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old or a 60-year-old is changing, but some people hold on to the old ideas as well, don't they?
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like an outdated concept.
Yeah,
that has changed. But, you know, with my judgmental hat on, which I try really hard not to do, but like you, I'm human. Sometimes I do see women who are desperately trying to look like they're 20, who are in their 50s and 60s, and I think, oh my gosh, that firstly, it looks really uncomfortable. So I want to make them comfortable, but there is that too, you know, and there is a certain idea of grace as you get older, but with more freedom, that there's no uniform anymore. You can just kind of be who you want to be and encourage your own style. But I really like, out of this whole thing, I like this idea of intentional dressing, but in a way that brings out your own personality.
Yeah.
Rather than just dressing for how you think other people come back to that, how other people you want other people to perceive you.
Yeah.
So there is always going to be a little bit of that, but then bring out your own personality in that. Nikki, what do you mean? Is that more like just keeping up with the fashion rather than style? What do you mean? Where are you?
You feel free to unmute yourself as
well.
Talk.
I was thinking, hello. It's just more like, because you were talking a lot more about like style. So is it more of us thinking of getting a smaller wardrobe, but things that when you put them on, it may still be fashion, but you put it on as more stylish, rather than trying to get the thing from the 20-year-old shop that's really too tight for you or too like that. But you can still be fashionable, but you know what works for you and your personality.
Yeah. So I think based on what you've just said, and I love your stripy top, by the way, and your radiance, you're very jolly. It's great, right? Cool. Like you're rocking your look. Because that's what it's about. It's embodying our look. Otherwise, I say, it just looks like some armor. I don't like that expression, using clothes as armor. No, we're not in a war. I mean, there's wars going on, but we're not in a war every day. So, I love Helene's comment as well. I'll come back to that. So yeah, in order, the mutton dressed as lamb thing. Yes, it's important to define your personal style through your 3 key words, and find clothes and mixing clothes together that define those. Well, you're absolutely right. Nikki, it's also about using fashion to update and keep you, as I say, elegant and relevant, because what we don't want to do is to turn into like frumpies as we get older. Most people don't want to. If you do want to, respect, but I think most of my clients, certainly, they don't want to feel frumpy or irrelevant, but neither did they want to feel like a 20-year-old or the lamb in this situation, mutton dressed as lamb in this situation. So I think you touch on 2 things in your comments, so thank you. One is it's knowing where to go. And some shops definitely are targeted more at young people, you know, and it's often the clothes, the fast fashion shops like H&M, for example. I got great things in H&M too, basic t-shirts, whatever, but we do have to go in there thinking we're not the target market. And so if we put on some of those things, also the quality, you know, you can get away with some things when you are in your 20s, like bad quality, chip nail varnish, and you can kind of rock it with a bit of young people's attitude. When you're older, it can just look sloppy, right? It can look sloppy, or like a bit, as we get lumpier and bumpier as well, like some of those cheaper fabrics accentuate those lumps and bumps, which for some people is undesirable and can look a bit, you know, on the sluttier side as well, which most people, certainly my clients, you know, that's not really the desirable look. So I would say, yes, know that when you're going into some of those stores that you're not the main target. That doesn't mean you can't get stuff, but be careful. And I would also urge people away from buying just loads of stuff in those young people's stores, just because we don't need that much stuff. But it's, as you say, it's about choosing a few fashionable things just to keep our classic pieces or our current wardrobe more elegant and relevant, so that we feel fresh and, you know, not like mutton dressed like lamb, but like beautiful, gorgeous, you know, va-va-voom ladies. Totally.
Yeah. Helen, that's a great, I love that story. They all bought the same dress and they didn't, especially her mom, who's 80. I love that. Fantastic.
I love that too.
God, do you know what, Helen? If you're brave enough, send me a photo of all three of you. I would love to see that. I'd pass it on to Aleksandra too. That would be amazing. I love it.
I love this story too. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's obviously there's a theme in your family. You know, that's quite interesting as well. Like a family, maybe there's like a family style thing going on there.
Well, we all look very different.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we all look very different.
Oh, Helen, you must send her pictures. That's such a great yarn. Thank you.
She wears it with trainers, my niece. My mum wears it with sandals, and I wear it with platforms.
Wow.
Oh, fantastic. Helen, send me photos, please.
I'll try to do that. I don't know how to share it with you.
Helen, you also raise a really good point, and that's, you know, and Stella, you mentioned it just now, or maybe you've got the same taste, and actually that's also really important to reflect on. Where does our taste come from? Where does our style come from? And sometimes that can be genetic transference or cultural transference, you know. So I'm from an Eastern European family, and, you know, it was always about, you know, the catwalk of the church. I'm sure some of you will resonate with that, you know, where it's Sunday and everybody's in their finery, you know, wearing furs and dresses down the catwalk of the aisle of the church. And that idea of, you know, women don't wear trousers was how I grew up. And, you know, that stayed with me. And I do wear trousers now, but a lot less. So it's also for the lady that asked, where do I start? Also think about, where do you think your style has come from historically? Yeah.
Interesting. Wow, we've had a really interesting conversation here and got into all different types of things. I think one thing we can agree, though, is that it is good for our own sense of confidence, self-esteem, learning who we are, you know, really getting into who we are, you know, and how we want to reflect that with our appearance. And I love this idea of conscious dressing. I don't do that. I'm going to start really consciously thinking. I kind of do it subconsciously, but I'm going to do that. And the next session, when we talk about decluttering, I'd really like to go into more of like the quality of what you buy, like you said, and because the clothes that I wear over and over again are the higher quality things that I, you know, garments that I bought years ago and I just didn't ever want to let go of, and I'm still wearing them, but I've got a whole load of stuff that I really need to get rid of and I can't bring myself to do it. So that's another conversation. Yeah, that's another conversation. But thank you so much. I mean, yeah, Nikki, we have, I think, you know what? Some people don't, they're the minority, but some people are really good about it. I have this, I'm entering this realm now, which we shouldn't really talk about, but I'm trying to have this rule of put something in, take something out.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Gosh, I spend hours just standing there looking what do I get rid of? It's crazy. But yes, it's really, really interesting. Thank you so much, Aleksandra. I think you've made us think about style a little bit more and understand how we can personalize it and how we can use it for our own well-being, really, to make ourselves feel more confident and what was the word you used?
I don't know.
Was it the vavavoom?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because some women reach midlife and they say, oh, it's this thing again, it's mutton dressed as lamb. I don't want to look slutty, but I still want to feel sexy, and this relationship with sexiness. God, I can talk about this for hours. Ladies, can I just say thank you so much for coming, and thank you for having me, Stella. And also, if there's anything that you'd particularly like to discuss in another session, then do let me know. Drop me a message on Instagram or whatever, or tell Stella, and I will try and address it next session.
Sheena, oh my gosh, that is
there's
a lot of people who wish they were in your position. I tell you, usually it's the other way around, isn't it? People have clothes that they think they're going to get into and they can't throw them away because they think they're going to get into them. Good
Especially
for you.
when midlife tummy comes.
Yeah. Good for you, Sheena. I wanted to share here quickly your YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Put it in chat, but I'm going to put it also on the recording, but I'll just put it on here in the meantime if anybody wants to. It's if you just search Aleksandra. Oh, yeah,
it's just my name on YouTube.
I'm just search for, if you go onto YouTube. Oh, sorry. Can you hear it?
Is that me?
I've put you on, and now I'm
hitting the menopause at the same time.
There we go.
Take away some of your confidence.
Oh, sorry.
This is quite peculiar. It's like stereo me.
Yeah, it's fine.
Sheena, just to address your question very quickly, and also I would just say, ladies, body shape is like a huge thing, and I don't believe in subscribing to body shape rules. There's different ways of addressing that. We can talk about that another time. Do you get rid of everything size 6 to 14? No, not if it still looks good on you. You can also get stuff taken in, but yeah, if you're planning on staying in a size 12, then yeah, get rid of the things that are swamping you, and well done as well. But yeah, if it's just a temporary thing, I just don't think we should hold on to too much stuff. But if you've got things you love, just get them tailored. Yeah, get them tailored and altered. It's magical what they can do. But yeah, let's not get too hung up on body shape labels and things like that. And also, for me, style is about self-care, because it's about the rituals that we put in place every day to do with that intentionality. And it's to do it with love, isn't it? Just like brushing our teeth, we can either go like this, or we can do it with love, and it's the same with dressing, and that sort of builds a more positive momentum for our everyday.
Wonderful. Let's be like those wonderful grandmothers that that were a huge inspiration, well, to you and to me. So I'll send out, with the recording, I'll send out the other information, and let me know if there are other topics. We are going to do a declutter one. But if you think of anything else, let me know. And thank you for joining us on this gorgeous evening. Have a lovely weekend, rest of weekend, and I'll be in touch soon. Next week we've got our forest bathing, live in the forest. I know a lot of people can't make that because of distance, or they've got other commitments. So that's fine. We'll do another one of those at another time too. But we won't have a Wellbeing at Home, and I think we're going to take August off, and then probably be back in September. So if I don't see you again, have a wonderful summer. Lots of love to everyone, and stay healthy and happy. Lots of love. Bye. Okay.